Really excited to talk to all of these amazing marketers here to really just think about what is the strategy and trends behind digital innovation. Maybe as we before we kick things off, we could just do some quick intros. We could start with you, Alicia.
Hey everybody, my name is Alicia Joseph. I'm with the AT&T business marketing team, and we are part of the go-to-market team that's accountable for everything from strategy to planning to marketing and execution. I specifically lead up our brand campaigns as well as multiple of our product campaigns.
Good morning, Girard Hardy. I am Director of Brand Marketing at Walker & Company Brands. If you have not heard of Walker & Company Brands before, that's okay. Our lead brand is a men's head-to-toe grooming brand called Bevel. We've been around for about 11 years now, and as Director of Brand Marketing, I run everything under the sun related to the brand. So product launches, influencers, gifting, brand partnerships, you name it. So.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kayla Moore, Vice President of Brand Marketing at Hobo Bags. We are a 30-year-old heritage handbag company, really in the midst of a brand reset. So I am about 4 months into this role and looking to bring in some of the past innovation I've done across many different industries into a more traditional company. So I consider myself industry agnostic. I have been in sport, beer, crypto, men's apparel, and now women's fashion. And to me, that's my superpower because I can bring innovation from different industries and new ideas into more traditional commoditized spaces.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Alicia, would love to maybe kick it off with you and just get an idea. Is there a specific trend or strategy that you're excited about from a digital innovation standpoint?
So something that really excites me for our brand is going to be starting to use more on the content creators perspective. So historically, the way we've gone to market from an AT&T business perspective is just working with influencers that are tech experts, and a lot of that has been lending their voice and from a credibility perspective, and that's been great. But it's time to help modernize that and push things forward and not just show up on X and LinkedIn and do long form posts and various different types of blogs. So we are completely overhauling the way we are approaching social, which I'm really excited about, bringing in nano and micro influencers, bringing in individuals that are more in the millennial and Gen X audience, which is great because that's where our core customers are from a business decision-making audience. So the way we're going to start bringing them to market and bringing them at events and actually creating content that's really tailored to each of the platforms is something I'm really excited about going forward.
Awesome. I love creators. being Captivate as a creator content platform. But Girard, would love to just maybe get an understanding of what drives your strategy and innovation. How do you I know community is super important for you as well. So maybe how you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I would say the number one thing that kind of drives innovation for us as a brand and me as a marketer is the consumer, right? Which is sort of a short answer, but I think, the consumer decides ultimately. And so the opportunity for us as a personal care and a grooming brand is really to sit right next to our consumer and try and understand what they're going through, what they need, and then to be able to use and leverage innovation to be able to show them how our products will help them and benefit them, right? I think Alicia brought up a great point about content creators, right? That's a very sort of low-hanging fruit way for a personal care brand to be able to show our product does this. This is how it looks, right? I think we've seen this in personal care over the last, probably the last decade. We've all seen, right, the social posts where someone is at their bathroom counter and they're kind of doing their thing. But I think the innovation in that space is really being able to show the benefits of the product and to show how people are using it, not just the amazing after, but how does the product work? What are those benefits of it? And to be able to carry that through, across customer reviews, right? To be able to see that user-generated content, to be able to demonstrate, those benefits of the product.
Maybe just to dive into a little more as well, is I think when you're thinking about the different generations that you're marketing towards, whether it's Gen Z or millennials, authenticity becomes super important. Is there a way that you help with that education process when you're speaking to those communities?
The education process around the products?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting, I think, kind of turn on that, right? Which is to say, at one point, right, I'll use my example again from a handful of years ago, right? You could just show someone at their bathroom counter in a stylized video with your product next to it, and that was enough, right? But I think it still left, especially as kind of consumers age and other consumers increase in their ability to buy and purchase your products, it left a lot to be desired, because there was questions of, okay, well, is that real? Is that authentic? That looks really too stylized, right? And so one of the things that I do, and one of the things that we do at Walker & Company or at Bevel, is I tend to be really light on what our influencer briefs are. I care about the product benefits, right? I care about, okay, this is what the product actually does. But before we even get to the briefing stage, I'm sending products to those potential creators, and I'm asking them, okay, which of these did you like the most when you used them? Now, I still have the business need. I still have the brief that has to be created. But what I've done is I've eliminated the opportunity for them to sort of fake it about a specific product that I love but means nothing to them, right? The example for us is one of our lead products is a single-blade safety razor, single-edge safety razor. It's great, but the reality is not everyone shaves, right? And so I have to be able to be aware of that. The influencer might put out great content, they might have the right look, but if it's not a product that they care about, well, then authenticity just left.
I love seeing the commonalities across industries. That's really what makes me me, and I really thrive. And I think there's similarities, right? So I've never been in the beauty space, but now that I'm in the handbag space, we used to see content that was highly stylized. You're saying like in your bathroom and it's perfect. In fashion, it's like these perfect styling videos. But really what we're seeing is our community wants to see how you're actually using your handbag every day from desk to dinner. And so that's what we've been really trying to drive is let's be real about the use cases in which people are using our product. It doesn't always need to be beautiful and perfect.
Awesome. Great. So yeah, I mean, I think adding on to that, and maybe just thinking about consumer behavior, and even if we think about it from an influencer standpoint, or just generally, like, would love to hear your thoughts on how you're meeting your customers, maybe where they are, and thinking about consumer behavior. And I know there's a lot of talk around influencer. It'd be even great to just think about first-party data that you have access to from a brand perspective, and how you might tie that into some of the strategies.
Yeah, so at Hobo, we are in a brand reset. So we're doing a lot of qualitative and quantitative work to really understand the consumer. And with that comes, a lot of interesting information. And what's really nice is that we do have trust and quality, and those are really hard brand attributes to get. So we're really trying to over-focus on those things. So, for example, quality. Some women have had Hobo bags for over 20 years, which is just really amazing. But how do we capture the next generation from a consumer behavior perspective? So we actually do have a resale program that's brand owned. It's called Hobo Vintage. And that to me wholeheartedly is a digital innovation of social commerce where we're showing we don't care how you buy our bags. You could buy resale, you could buy, direct off our website. Our resale site actually is connected to our website, so that helps. But that consumer behavior of loving a bag every day and loving it for years and years and years, we're really capturing from a community perspective.
Awesome. No, I think that's super important. It's almost the storytelling behind the bag as well, right? Or the product that really starts to create that emotional connection with the audiences as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So from an AT&T business perspective, we really focused on the small business community this year from our brand campaign perspective. And we all know being a small business owner is really, really hard. And we for our brief, we really focused on the fact that they don't get a moment to really sleep. There's no calmness during your day as you're thinking about how am I gonna do my next task, whether I'm buying internet or trying to handle payroll. And so we came up with a brand campaign that was completely unlike us and enlisted the cast of The Office. And they really had positive affirmations and played on this theme of dreaming and having peaceful, restful sleep. And by working with that team, we had a whole fake business, and they had this talking pillow, and Rainn Wilson would whisper into your ears lovely sayings, which you can go look up on Spotify. And so it was really trying to meet that customer where they are and recognizing that, yes, we understand it's really, really hard, and we are here to try and make your internet needs and mobility needs simple. And it was less about pushing the products forward and putting it more on the side and saying, we understand and trying to meet where they're at. And did the campaign from a LinkedIn perspective, as well as TV and linear, where we actually teased out, and everybody thought we were bringing that cast of The Office back. And they weren't even associated with AT&T Business for the first 2 weeks. So it was very, very difficult at first because none of that cast actually had a LinkedIn profile. So we had to make up fake LinkedIn profiles. We had a fake CTO. We had a chief security officer. And so people really thought the cast was getting back together. And then we revealed it was all, a little bit of a hoax with the talking pillow. But by bringing that humor forward, we were able to break through. And that's really, really hard for us because whether we want to admit it or not, we are a commodity. And so it really paid off for us by doing a different approach and really focused on our customer.
I love both of those examples, right? Because it really is saying, look, where is the consumer? How can we meet them exactly where they are? For us, we're an 11-year-old brand, right? So not quite as storied, right, as Hobo. But we're an 11-year-old brand. And so that single blade safety razor, it has a metal handle. And so if you were a customer that purchased that 11 years ago, it still works today, right? You're just changing out the blades. And so that's created a fun challenge for us, but it's also created a space where we, as a brand, recognize that if you were with us in the very beginning, you're in a different place in your life today. And so for us to continue to thrive as a brand, we have to reach out to younger and younger consumers, right? Younger people, and meeting them before they have beards, before they're even shaving, helping them understand those good grooming habits. We've done that in a variety of ways. One of the ways that I'm most proud of, or two of the ways I would say, is one, through great partnerships. We've partnered with, if you know Overtime or Overtime Sports, we've done great work with Overtime to be able to reach a younger, pre-shaving, pre-beard, right, person and meeting them in that space. We've also done community partnerships, right, whether that's around mental health or partnering with big film studios like Marvel Studios around Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. But all of those are different ways to say, let's have you think about grooming and personal care differently, less as a pain point in your day, and more as a source of like pride and confidence. And we believe that our products help them do that.
Maybe one question on that. I think staying connected to the consumer over the course of their life or life journey. I think all of you probably lean into that at some point, and you were just talking about almost getting into the pre-shaving, consumer and knowing how they're going. Any recommendations on the best way to curate that or set up a program like that? Because I think that becomes so important as you release new products and things like that.
Yeah, I think the first piece is honesty, right? It's really challenging, I think, to be honest about where your brand is and where you are in the consumer life cycle, right? And I think once you're able to be honest, for us, that was number one. Hey, look, the person who was with us, the brand went viral. sorry, as a marketer, I have I hate that word. I hate viral. I hate that word. So every time I say it, it's like I'm choking it out.
There's such an expectation to go
yeah,
viral.
right. But the brand in the very beginning days went viral because hip hop legend Nas, wrote a verse about the brand. He was an early investor in the brand, and so it went viral in the very beginning days. And so it's taken honesty to be able to say as a brand, and that was pre my time there, but it took honesty to say the person who recognizes us from that viral moment is not who we need to talk to all the time today. Mm-hmm. And then it opens up the door to be able to say, okay, let's look at the data as a D2C brand. Who is buying our stuff regularly? Let's talk to our partners at Target and Walmart, find out who is coming into the doors, and then looking for those creative opportunities through partnerships, through content. It takes those kind of pieces, I think, but honesty first, and then being able to delve into the data to build it.
Really love that. I think especially as you continue to market to the younger and younger audiences, that authenticity and honesty is exactly what they want, right? Like they want to believe in the vision, the values, the mission before they sign off on the product or make purchases. Maybe we could talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you might be facing from a brand perspective and different techniques that you're using from a digital innovation or strategy.
Yeah, so I think, we're in an interesting position where we have such a super fan base of consumers that they're on average over the age of 50. So our challenge is really to capture the next generation while not alienating our consumer base right now. And I think naturally a lot of brands are like, oh, let's just go and capture Gen Z. We actually are looking at millennials as that next target consumer because we've seen in insights that a lot of those women that are over the age of 50 are actually gifting it to the next generation. And it's, bags are telling a story. There's been a lot of love lived in those bags. And so we're really trying to harness the power of that to be this intergenerational brand. And I think from an innovation standpoint, a way to not necessarily alienate the ages is to lean into social commerce. And so I think we're at the forefront of social commerce right now, where you have social commerce on the social sites that you're already using, like a TikTok and Instagram, but then you also have social commerce on these new sites like Flipshop. In my past, we've seen amazing success with this platform. And so how do we lean into those types of social commerce platforms that each generation is consuming on? I think that's a really good way for us to start to personalize those journeys.
Cool. Anyone else want to?
Yeah. So one of our biggest challenges, being a 150-year-old company that has bought many, many companies over the years, is we have really, really complex systems. And as a result, it makes it really, really challenging for us to do personalization. And thankfully, there are really smart MarTech people, way smarter than me, that have had this vision over the last, I'd say, 7 years to do a lot of system cleanup. And we're at that point now from a segmentation perspective where we're going to be able to get very, very surgical down to whether you're a home-based business of one to are you a business that has 500 employees and complex hybrid networking systems, things that none of us would really care about here in the audience. But what it matters to me is now I'll be able to get much more targeted. I'll be able to customize the messaging to make sure it really resonates with our audience. And so for me, I'm excited about that coming forward into 2025 in particular as we go through this whole data overhaul and enrichment process so that we can actually start personalizing in a much more meaningful manner, and especially because that is all what we expect today. And it'll allow us ultimately to help modernize us as a brand as well.
Yeah, and for us, I would say challenges, right, are when this brand started 11 years ago, there were not a lot of personal care brands made specifically or speaking specifically to Black and brown consumers. There were not. If you look today, there are a ton, right? And it's whether it's skincare, hair care, makeup, you name it, there's just a ton. And so I think there's a lot of there's a lot more noise or conversation in the marketplace, for the consumer when they go to the shelf digitally or physically. And so I think that's a challenge. But I would also say that's a great opportunity because it forces us to really stay on our toes and stay connected to the consumer. It forces us to really look at great things, right? Like Kayla mentioned with social commerce and having those conversations. It forces us to, look at using content as a way to communicate those product benefits and to be able to make sure that we're coming clear about who we are as a brand, the efficacy of our products, right? And why you need our products as opposed to that one over there or that one over there. And personally, I love that. I love that challenge or that race or that opportunity because otherwise, you as a brand, you just sit back and get fat and happy without that challenge or without that chance to really kind of think about what people need.
Cool. Any questions from the audience?
Thought you did it for me. Sorry. Girard, good to see you again. We talked about this in previous conversations, but I'm an early bevel adapter, right, in terms of multiple trimmers. One thing that you said was interesting to me is that not necessarily having to talk to people who got on board early, but as a father of 3 kids, 2 sons, talk to me a little bit more about the strategy to engage that next generation consumer and then have them become sort of a Walker & Co. brands or even a Bevel specific customer for life.
Yeah. So that's a great question. I mean, I think we've tried to approach it in multiple ways, right? Whether that is this act of passing it down, right, from generation to generation. But I would say that the most consistent way that we've done it is we really look at which of our products can speak to the needs of that person pre-beard, right, pre-shaving, what manages that. And I think the growth and opportunity for us as a brand is since we've become fully head to toe, shampoos, face wash, body wash, etc. It's allowed us to be able to speak to other things, right? You'd be hard pressed to find a, 14, 15, 16-year-old, young man who's not thinking in some way, shape, or form about his skin, right? Now, whether or not, he's using the right products or whatever, there is some thought in that teenage, pre-college mindset of how do I take care of my skin? How do I make my skin look a little bit better today than it did yesterday? And so for us, it's relatively easy to be able to come in with, hey, here are the products, here's the benefits of them. And then part of that strategy is getting those products in the hands of people that they trust or that they see, right? That's where the partnership with like Overtime Sports comes in. That's where, a lot of the gifting and award season and a lot of those elements come in, because then you can have the products in the hands of individuals who that person is already looking to and already sort of using to kind of build out the palette, right, of what they have.
My question is a little bit tactical for Kayla and Girard. So everyone has such an emphasis in the D2C space on Q4, right? And that really starts in Q1. So can you speak to a little bit about how you are warming up your audience to make a purchasing decision from Q1 to eventually, going and making a purchase in Q4?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to building brand, right? So this is also something we've been facing at Hobo is in past years, we've gotten highly promotional and we're bringing in a one-time consumer. They're one and done. So how do we really build brand in a very meaningful way? And I think that comes down to storytelling and what our consumer wants to see. So we have 4 content pillars. One of them that arguably is the most important, I like to call it behind the seams. And what it is we've found that consumers love seeing our founder, who is, by the way, a fantastic human. They love seeing her talk about what went into the making of the product and what it's going to do for you. And so we've been leaning into a lot of that from a storytelling perspective across all channels. So I think that's also the magic too. Don't just tell these stories on organic social. Tell them through every single point of the consumer journey to really build brand. So short answer, build brand in Q1, and then get that consumer for Q4 from a promotional perspective.
Yeah, I love that, right? So I think for us, it's really about making sure people understand that skincare, right? Head to toe skincare starts every day, right? And so to Kayla's point, not really relying on promotions, but one of my favorite things that we've done is we look at that kind of January, February, March timeframe is one of my favorite times of year, right? And the reason is I love to call it award season. And so for us as a brand, it's a great way for us to be able to partner with, stylists and groomers and skincare experts early, just to be able to show our products, right? If you saw the announcement, right, of the Met Gala and what they're going to do next year, right? Like I'm geeked out about it, and part of the reason is because, the opportunity to work with, Black men on a big stage like that, where people are looking at them for their influence, that's tailor-made for our brand to be able to say, here's our products. Let's have that conversation in January, February, March, April, May. And then by the time you're making a decision about gifting, right, in September, October, you've got 9 months of seeing our stuff in the hands of people. You've got 9 months and a big summer, ideally, of seeing our products in the hands of people as they're outside enjoying the season or living their best lives or doing whatever. So by the time you go and you make that gifting decision, it stops being about pricing and it starts being more about that brand building, that storytelling that we've spent 9-10 months kind of going into.
Hi, this could be a question, I think, for any of the panelists, but I'd love to hear a little bit about how you think about influencer marketing specifically. And you talked a little earlier about the emotional insight that you're always trying to tap into across all of your platforms. And I guess my curiosity is when I think about influencer marketing, I'm always thinking about how to best prompt somebody else to talk about that emotional insight, because you have to kind of pass off the baton on all of this research and knowledge that you have internally. So I'm curious just to hear how you're all thinking about how to best prompt people who are going to go become, those spokespeople and driving forces behind your brand and give that insight new life while also allowing them to be authentic.
I think the beauty of creators is they have their own life stories and lived experiences. And so I think there was a time where briefs were extremely specific and it was a disservice to the content that you were getting. And so my advice would be, what is one value prop that your brand can stand for wholeheartedly through and through? So for Hobo, it's hands-free. Our best-selling bag, it's called the Fern Sling. It is our most loved, and it lets you live life hands-free. So actually, it's National Handbag Day today. There's a holiday for everything. And so if you look...
Did you make that up just now?
No, October 10th is National Handbag Day. Yeah, no, it's for real. So if you go to our socials and any of our email and SMS right now, you will see a huge UGC focus on living life hands-free, and it looks different for everyone, which is so incredible. So you have someone who's like, I have my emotional support water bottle and my cell phone in my hand. I'm living life hands-free. You have someone that's walking their dog. They're hands-free. You have someone who's putting their kids in a car seat. They're living life hands-free. So that's the way I've kind of approached it in every role. What is that value prop? And then that sticking point that you can give creators to tell their own story.
Yeah, and I would say, I think, in short, from a marketing perspective, when you're dealing with influencers or content creators, you have to be less type A, right? Which is very similar, right, to what Kayla was saying, is that you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And recognize that I'm going to that creator because they have an ability to tell a story that I may not. And I may not have the ability to tell that story because Maybe it's going to be too much process. Maybe as a brand, we're going to make it look too much like all of the other videos that we put out or other content. So I'm going to them because they have the ability to tell a story in a way that I don't, or that I shouldn't, right? Or that I'm not empowered to. And I think it's okay to accept that from the beginning. And then once that's clear, right? And the challenge sometimes, depending on the size of your brand and the brand that you work for, the challenge sometimes is to get all of the other leadership to be able to be on board with that. There's been quite a few times where I've asked forgiveness versus permission. And it's been an easier conversation because the content has turned out well, right? Because we empowered the creator. But I think you have to empower them. You have to be really clear about what matters about your brand. If I'm getting one thing out of this piece of content, it has to say or do this. And then my big thing is don't script them. Don't script them, right? Just, hey, we need you to talk about our benefits or mention the benefit that's most important to you of these. But I'm not scripting them. I don't want it scripted. And in fact, we've sent it back because, hey, that sounds like I gave you a script, right? How would you say it? Do that, right? And that's created great relationships with creators, and it's created a wealth of partnerships that, we can always go back to.
Guys, thank you very much for the time you've given us. Round of applause.